Hi, I'm Ken Hardman with more AncestorClips. This time, south of Manchester, England, with my third great-grandmother, Margaret Holden Hardman, ever onward. As the smoke of the Industrial Revolution continuously settled on residents of Manchester, England, in the 1830s, death persistently came to rest on the small home of Margaret and Richard Hardman. Likely with broken heart, wondering if she would ever have children, she laid her fifth lifeless baby to rest in an early, tiny grave. Margaret was a weaver, Richard a rope maker, but another 9 hopeful months passed with no daughters for Mom to dress, and no sons to enter Dad's trade. With prayer, work, endurance, and love, another 10 years passed, and 6 more pregnancies. 3 would die, but 3 lived on: Alice Eliza, Lehi Nephi, and George Richard. Alice received the middle name of her grandmother, Elizabeth. George bore the middle name of his father, Richard. And Lehi Nephi carried the names given to him by a prophet a year before he was born. From debilitating sickness, health was restored under priesthood hands, the gospel of the restoration. And Margaret and Richard carried on, gathered with the Latter-day Saints, moved from their home with many of their family, ever onward, following the prophets from Manchester to Nauvoo, Illinois. Living only blocks from the Nauvoo temple, they built the community, the temple and their posterity. After their eternal marriage in the temple of God, Margaret lost Richard, missing on the Mississippi while working and escorting family members to Zion. Widowed, cast out through trials of sorrow from Illinois to Missouri to Iowa and Nebraska, and the loss of her second husband, William Presley, to cholera, she still pressed onward, eventually to a place where her children, including Jane Amanda Presley, met their companions, raised righteous families, and gave Margaret posterity beyond all that she could have imagined. We too can press onward, ever onward.
From the point of view of the people who we look as being very, very hard done by, from their point of view, life here was certainly tolerable. They were reasonably well looked after. They didn't earn a great wage, but they had good social benefits. They had good quality housing, they had access to good quality food, they had access to medical care. Medical care was totally unavailable to a working class population in this country at that time because they couldn't afford it. In the Ancoats of the time, you've got sewage running down the street into a very, very polluted river. You've got mass overcrowding, no ability to grow fresh food. The cottages each year had an allotment of land on which they could grow fresh food. No access to a free education for their children, no access to medical care. Still the same 12 hours a day, maybe a little bit more money, but then the cost of living was higher.
My heart is broken for Margaret and Richard. Margaret came from a large family where she helped raise many of her younger siblings. Imagine the heartbreak as each of 5 9-month pregnancies ended in death. Did they wonder if life was worth it? Did they get angry with God? Did she want to give up when other children died, or when she lost her health or her husband? When I pass through the veil of death, someday, I expect to meet her and ask these questions. My desire to meet her and talk to her will be because of the great honor I hold for her. She certainly had her days of trial, but her life in totality reveals faith, prayer, spiritual sensitivity, and determination, ever onward. She raised good children, had faith to be healed, listened to her heart, united with her husband, followed prophets, had vision to see past mortality to eternity with a large posterity, to the blessings she frequently desired. Thank you, Margaret and Richard, for never giving up. Thank you for believing in yourselves, believing in God, and believing in me, and the multitudes whose veins carry your blood. and your blessings.